As Russia pushes artillery forward to pound Pokrovsk with thermobaric weapons, and 200 infiltrators spark street fighting in central districts, Ukrainian forces have launched a devastating counterbattery campaign, destroying Russian artillery systems within minutes of detection and slowly turning the tide. The Russians have intensified the shelling on Pokrovsk to support their infiltration attempts into the town, but this came at a huge risk. Ukrainian units began targeting exposed Russian equipment, stopping the artillery barrage on the town and creating a window of opportunity for the friendly forces on the ground. The Russians are now bombarding Pokrovsk and the neighboring Myrnograd with unprecedented fury to crush the Ukrainian defense. The Russian command has unleashed the full power of its artillery, including thermobaric systems. Russian state channels released videos showing a TOS-2 launcher firing at Pokrovsk, while a lone soldier stood guard with a machine gun, watching the skies for Ukrainian drones. Another video from a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone recorded the aftermath of another shelling, with the entire horizon filled with smoke pillars as Myrnograd came under yet another Russian barrage. The Russian plan is to suppress Ukrainian defenses and blind the drone operators and spotters who rely on high-rise buildings for observation and fire correction. Previous Ukrainian strongpoints are being turned into ruins under the heaviest bombardment in months. The Ukrainian General Staff acknowledged that the situation inside Pokrovsk remains critical, with around 200 Russian troops already infiltrated into the central districts, sparking intense street fighting after the continuous shelling allowed them to creep in more easily. Drone footage shows Russian soldiers advancing through the railway area, the same spot where 4 Ukrainian civilians were shot dead by infiltrators in broad daylight. Another war crime caught on video. The same Ukrainian reconnaissance drone that filmed the murders later guided munitions onto the Russian group hiding inside the station building, wiping them out in an instant. For months, the Ukrainian stronghold of Pokrovsk stood firm through endless bombardments. But now the defenders face Russian assault teams, often no more than 2 or 3 men at a time, who crawl forward through tree lines and ruins, using their own drones to provide overwatch. Each group that survives digs in and begins ambushing Ukrainian soldiers and civilians alike. This is combined with heavy Russian drone activity and artillery fire, as Ukrainian units report that even reaching their positions has become a deadly ordeal, with every road into Pokrovsk being watched by Russian FPV and fiber optic drones. Yet, despite the chaos, Ukrainian defenders hold, and their answer has come in the form of a fierce counterbattery campaign. As Russia pushed its artillery forward to pound the towns, Ukrainian drone reconnaissance seized the moment. When thermobaric launchers fire, they must do so within a short range of 3 to 6 kilometers for the TOS-1 and around 15 kilometers for the TOS-2. exposing themselves to detection. Ukrainian operators spotted one such system near the southern edge of Pokrovsk. Within minutes, a pair of FPV drones struck it, detonating its fuel and rockets in a massive explosion that killed the crew. Another strike, captured on video, showed a Ukrainian FPV drone diving into a BM-27 Uragan multiple rocket launcher, destroying it on the road. Later, a BM-21 Grad launcher was caught firing and obliterated seconds later. Each destroyed system reduces Russia's firepower, giving Ukrainian forces a narrow but vital window to regroup. Ukrainian artillery units joined the hunt, destroying an ancient ML-20 howitzer, a relic from before the Second World War that Russian troops had dragged out of storage to compensate for mounting gun losses. Precision airstrikes have followed, including 3 GBU-39 glide bombs dropped precisely on 3 Russian batteries firing from tree lines south of Pokrovsk. With Russian guns falling silent, Ukrainian infantry and drone units began clearing operations, eliminating infiltrators in basements and ruins, restoring contact lines, and reclaiming sectors lost in the chaos. A year ago, few believed Ukraine could hold this town through the winter of 2024, or at most the summer of 2025. Yet once again, the defenders have adapted, combining precision strikes with relentless counter-battery fire to blunt Russia's offensive.
Moscow has claimed its goal is to build a buffer zone along the northeastern border, but Ukraine says its forces are now turning the tide. Ukrainian military intelligence has claimed a devastating blow to Russian forces in Sumy Oblast, saying its special forces killed over 330 Russian troops and wiped out more than 8 enemy companies during a fierce battle. The report, published by Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence, HUR, on August 5, said elite Timer Special Unit troops repelled a Russian push in the northeast, releasing dramatic footage showing close-range fighting, drone strikes, and artillery pounding Russian positions. HUR, which shared footage appearing to show dead Russian soldiers and destroyed equipment, said, total Russian losses: at least 334 killed, more than 550 wounded. The exact location and timing of the clash were not disclosed. Russian forces pushed into Sumy Oblast earlier this year after reclaiming most of Russia's neighboring Kursk Oblast. Moscow has claimed its goal is to build a buffer zone along the northeastern border, though Ukraine says its forces are now turning the tide. According to HUR, Timer Special Unit fighters infiltrated deep behind enemy lines, dismantling Russian positions and severing their supply chains for food and ammunition. Ukrainian intelligence said intercepted Russian radio chatter showed soldiers refusing to attack the Ukrainian unit, citing fabricated reasons. While the Kyiv Independent could not verify the full extent of the claims, Ukrainian officials say Russian losses have increased sharply since June, when Moscow stepped up its summer offensive in Sumy Oblast. Still, Ukraine says it has halted that advance and even regained ground. On July 27, the Ukrainian military confirmed the recapture of the village of Kindrativka, days after retaking the nearby border settlement of Andriivka. Russia still controls around a dozen villages in the region. But President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian forces are gradually pushing the Russian forces out. A spokesman for the Ukrainian General Staff said, in the North Slobozhansk and Kursk directions, Ukrainian defenders repelled 13 Russian attacks. The enemy carried out 18 airstrikes, dropped a total of 35 guided aerial bombs, and carried out 353 artillery attacks, including 16 from multiple rocket launcher systems. Separately, Russian media outlet Shot claimed residents of the border region of Bryansk residents had reported multiple explosions in the sky and active air defense. As locals told Shot, the massive attack on the city began around 5 a.m. More than 10 powerful explosions were already heard, and several drones were shot down. The drone operators of the 22nd Mechanized Brigade successfully neutralized 2 Russian tanks in the Charkiv sector. A short video released by the military captures the moment the enemy equipment was hit. The brigade's command thanked the operators for their highly skilled work. This episode is yet another example of the effective use of drones, which has forced the Russians to rarely deploy armored vehicles. The success of the operation also demonstrates the high level of training of the drone operators. As a result, tanks and IFVs become easy targets. Even expensive modernized equipment burns within minutes of being hit by an FPV drone. According to estimates by Western analysts and Ukrainian military officials, Russia has already lost thousands of tanks and armored vehicles. In a precise and coordinated drone strike, the UAV operators of Ukraine's 22nd Mechanized Brigade successfully destroyed 2 Russian tanks operating in the Charkiv region. The footage, released by Ukrainian sources, showcases the growing effectiveness and lethality of Ukraine's unmanned aerial capabilities on the battlefield. The video begins with aerial surveillance footage from a first-person view FPV drone, identifying 2 Russian tanks maneuvering in a rural area near a tree line. The tanks appear to be attempting to reposition, likely in preparation for further assault or defensive operations. With calm precision, the drone operators guide FPV drones directly into the enemy armor. The first strike hits a stationary tank, causing a powerful explosion and rendering it completely disabled. Moments later, a second drone locks onto another Russian tank that had attempted to reposition. This drone also lands a direct hit, resulting in another detonation that engulfs the armored vehicle in flames. Ukraine's year-old Kursk operation forced Russia to redeploy significant reserves and abandon offensive plans in northern Ukraine. Ukraine's defense forces launched the Kursk operation 1 year ago on 6 August 2024, resulting in over 77,000 Russian military casualties. Ukraine's Kursk incursion was a surprise August 2024 offensive into Russia's Kursk Oblast, marking the largest foreign ground invasion of Russia since World War II. It initially captured significant territory, but stalled by March 2025 due to a Russian counterattack. The operation was Ukraine's response to Russia's preparation of a new offensive campaign in northern Slobozhansk. Sursky said, "After careful planning of the operation, our units were able to break through enemy defenses, go deep into the Russian rear, and disrupt its logistics." At the operation's peak, Ukrainian forces controlled up to 1,300 square kilometers of Kursk Oblast territory, forcing Russia to redeploy significant reserves and reducing pressure on other front directions. The operation prevented Russia from implementing its offensive plans and created a buffer zone that kept Sumy and Kharkiv free from attack.